23 Russian diplomats are packing their bags after Theresa May gave them a week to leave the country. The Prime Minister was responding to Moscow's refusal to explain how a Russian-made military-grade nerve agent came to poison a former spy and his daughter in Salisbury. In other measures, members of the royal family won't be attending the World Cup, and Russia's foreign minister is no longer welcome to visit the UK. Russia denies all involvement in the incident, which has left Sergei and Yulia Skripal seriously ill in hospital. Tonight, the UN Security Council's been meeting an emergency session to discuss the events in Salisbury. We'll hear more about that in a moment. Speaking in the Commons, though, the Prime Minister said it had been right to give Russia a chance to provide an explanation.
But their response has demonstrated complete disdain for the gravity of these events. They have provided no credible explanation that could suggest they lost control of their nerve agent. No explanation as to how this agent came to be used in the United Kingdom. No explanation as to why Russia has an undeclared chemical weapons programme in contravention of international law. Instead, they have treated the use of a military-grade nerve agent in Europe with sarcasm, contempt and defiance.
Earlier, live on state TV, Russia 1, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova referred to British officials and the Foreign Office in particular as liars.
Can you imagine who we're dealing with? These people have no idea about professionalism, diplomacy, international law, any international organisations. Second, they're simply liars. Real, fully-fledged liars.
Back in the Commons, in his response to the Prime Minister, the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn asked for more information about the actions taken by the government.
How has she responded to the Russian government's request for a sample of the agent used in the Salisbury attack to run its own tests? Has high-resolution trace analysis been run on a sample of the nerve agent, and has that revealed any evidence as to the location of its production or the identity of its perpetrators?
Jeremy Corbyn's questions provoked some disquiet within the Labour Party. There's also a difference of opinion between party officials and the Press Association over remarks Mr Corbyn's spokesman, Seamus Milne, is said to have made to journalists about the role of the intelligence agencies and the role of the Russian state. The Labour MP John Woodcock, who sits on Parliament's Home Affairs Committee, tabled an early day motion unequivocally accepting the Russian state's culpability for the attack and supporting fully the statement made by Mrs May in the Commons.
I thought it was important that there was clarity, both for the government and for the rest of the country looking at us, that actually there is a very wide range of support, including in the Labour Party, for the measures which the Prime Minister set out today in response to the Russian threat, and that the majority of people talking in the House and across the Labour Party are clear that unequivocally that this is Russia who is responsible and they must be held to account for what they've done.
A Guardian editorial has tonight called Jeremy Corbyn's response in the Commons today dispiriting. Is that your view?
Well, it's quite something that the Guardian would come out with, that given the close links which they have had with Seamus Milne, Jeremy Corbyn's spokesman. I think actually it was heartening to see nearly every single Labour MP, and in fact nearly every single MP from every party represented in the House of Commons today, speaking as one and accepting the government's verdict that Russia was responsible for this and supporting the measures which they set out.
Jeremy Corbyn asked Theresa May whether she had responded to Russia's request to provide samples of the nerve agent used. Is that so unreasonable? Isn't that about sharing evidence, potentially?
Russia has a long track record of dissembling, of finding ways to prevaricate. They were given a reasonable deadline by the Prime Minister. They refused to respond to that deadline, and the Prime Minister set out that they have overwhelming evidence which points to the Russian state's involvement on this. And so I think it's an unhelpful distraction that we give any particular credence to the kind of delaying tactics and propaganda which the Russian state has developed over many, many years
If there is this difference of opinion between Jeremy Corbyn, the leader's office, and much of the Parliamentary Labour Party, do you think there will be resignations from the front bench?
I really don't know. I've long taken a different view, and I wouldn't feel able to serve as a front bench even if I was asked. And
but no one's come up to you and said that they're examining their conscience.
It probably won't surprise you, Ritula, to tell me that I've never been asked. But I'm aware that many people are deeply unhappy with the idea that the Labour Party's official position on this would be equivocal and would be aligned in key ways with the propaganda which is being put out by the Kremlin at the moment, rather than a clear, unequivocal support for the package of measures which the UK has set out, and for the responsibility for this attack to be squarely placed upon the Russian state.
Labour MP John Woodcock.